Hi there, how are you? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is James, and today episode I'm gonna talk about fertilizing. Because guess what? Spring is here. Very exciting. This is all the products that I've been using to fertilize my plants, and I'm just gonna walk with you through each and individual of them, and I'm gonna show you how I mix them up together. So first of all, this is worm casting. I'm just placing it in this beautiful container, but I'm gonna show you the product that I've been using later on. This is kelp fertilizer, fish and seaweed fertilizer, this is Marphyl Soil Enhancer, and this is Kelmac. Alaska brand fish fertilizer, but more for blooming plants, flowers. Liqui-dirt. SUPERthrive. Fish poop. This is the concentrated version. Alright, so I just show you briefly of the products that I've been using, and you're gonna see a lot of them are kind of like overlapping each other. Let's talk about the differences between synthetic fertilizer and the organic fertilizer, the pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages of using the two. First of all, I'm gonna talk about the organic fertilizer because I have them all here. Personally, I do not use synthetic fertilizer. I used to use them before. I just found that they are not working as great as I hoped they would be. So that's why I switched over to organic fertilizer, and I found they are extremely helpful in so many ways. So the first benefit of using organic fertilizer is that they are providing a lot of microorganisms into the soil. Those microbes and beneficial fungus, beneficial bacteria into the soil that the plants need. You need it basically mimicking the real and true environment of what the plants are like in nature, right? You get bat poops, you get rabbit poops, and so many other animals, and then you know the whole thing, the whole ecosystem is there. With synthetic fertilizer, it doesn't really provide that benefit. So that's a huge difference between using organic fertilizer and the synthetic fertilizer. And second of all, is that using organic fertilizer, you are safe from burning your roots. Not 100% guarantee that you're not going to burn it, but it reduces the chance of burning your roots tremendously. I'm going to talk about why that's the case later on. Then it's obviously I talked about the microorganisms and stuff like that. It actually improved the soil texture. By saying that, I mean it holds on to the moisture and providing the water. It keeps the moisture in a little bit better so that the roots can reach out to the water a little bit better, and the nutritions and everything as well. Whereas synthetic fertilizer, after a while using it, your soil becomes dry out and there's nothing left in the soil, and that's not going to be great in the long run for your plant. It will stunt your plant growth, and the soil, you would notice that the soil become very dry, especially if you go to nurseries. You'll find that their soil is just so dry, it's almost like lifeless. The good thing about synthetic fertilizer is that it's so easy to use. It's readily available at any local supermarkets or any nurseries that will sell them. And for someone who doesn't like to for those who like simplicity and love to have just like a very basic fertilizing schedule, I think you should go for the synthetic ones because it has already been researched, and the chemicals, sorry, not the chemicals, the nutrients in it is accurate up to the standard. So 1 drop maybe for a liter or something like that. If you do it correctly according to the label, you are safe. But my recommendation for those who love to use synthetic fertilizer is that it's always better to go half or quarter, because a little bit goes a long way for synthetic fertilizer. And that's my recommendation for you. With the disadvantage of using organic and this synthetic fertilizer is that organic fertilizer is a little bit messy. As you can see, there's like a bunch of products here that I'm using, and especially the worm casting. This one here, it could get a little bit messy at times. So that is a huge disadvantage. Personally, that's what I found. Because I live in an apartment, I don't have like a huge garage or backyard or anything to do all my planting, unfortunately. So, I mean, it is what it is. Second of all, let me show you a good example to see the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium figure NPK at the bottom, 2, 3, 1. I guess what I'm trying to say is the nutritions that you see in here is not a lot. And this is just one example. And you would notice that some of the organic fertilizers, the numbers are very different from brand to brand. For example, worm casting is a really popular one. And you will see sometimes some brands that would offer 200 or 100, or the numbers can slightly different, and then it also depends on how much you use as well and how you use them. So yeah, it's not accurate 100%. So that's a minus for using the organic fertilizer. You can see that I have like a bunch of products here, and they are not cheap. So if you add up all these products, it can accumulate into a pretty large amount of money that I invested in my fertilizers. Whereas if you use synthetic fertilizer, you only need to invest in maybe 1 or 2 bottles, and that's like what, $10, $20. And the disadvantage of using synthetic fertilizer, I would say, as I said earlier, that their figures are very accurate. However, most of the time you're going to notice that synthetic fertilizer offer a very high amount of nutrients, like the NPK figures. So it's very likely that you could burn your roots if you're not careful. So that's why I recommended earlier that you need to cut the strength in half or even quarter strength when using synthetic fertilizers. And then after a while, as I said, it's going to lose the texture of the soil. Your plants wouldn't grow as quickly and as healthy as you want it to be. So that's a minus side of using synthetic fertilizer, because they can't really provide that microorganisms, those healthy bacteria, healthy fungus that should be in the soil at the first place. Alright, so I already talked about the advantages and disadvantages of using organic fertilizer and synthetic fertilizers. Let me walk with you each and individual of them, of the organic fertilizers in particular. So I know I already showed you this one. This is the worm casting. So what is worm casting? They're worm poops. They are gold. They are black gold of the soil. They are black gold of the soil because they offer those microorganisms so much. And in fact, that's what the plants need in nature as well. You get those little worms going through into the soil, breaking up the soil, and then the roots can have more air to breathe in. Unfortunately, we cannot have worms inside our indoor pots because that's kind of cruel, because the worms would die eventually. So yes, we're gonna use the worm poops and then to fertilize the plants. I personally, what I do is that I actually make tea worm casting, and I'm going to show you later on how I actually do it. It's fairly simple and very straightforward. You very easy as well. Just a little bit messy, but I'm gonna try to make it the minimum messy as possible. I'm gonna show you the trick. Next item that I would love to show you is this fish and seaweed fertilizer. Why am I using this? Because it offers fish fertilizer and seaweed fertilizer, both best of the both worlds. And when I use my tea worm casting, I pour this in a little bit, just a tiny bit. This would act like food for the microorganism because this sort of like sugar for them to eat. And yeah, they need to eat. Those microbes, they need to eat as well, just like us. Let's see what's the next item I'm gonna talk about. So this is a new brand. Fish Shit, I think. Yep, Fish Shit. This is a new brand, and it's a very concentrated fish poop. Pretty much overlapping with the Neptune Fish and Seaweed fertilizer that I just showed you. And then next item, let me see what I'm gonna talk about. Next item would be the CalMag. So what is CalMag? CalMag is actually known to use for hydroponic plants. You know, when you use lettuce or basically you use water, half and half. Instead of planting your plants in just soil 100% like I do. So those would use CalMag because when you do hydroponic, your plants would lack of a lot of nutrients that they need. So a lot of people, they chose to use CalMag to provide the magnesium and calcium that the plants need. But in soil wise, I like to add in just a touch of it into the fertilizer that I use so that it gives that little boost into the plants, because this is just vitamins almost, you know. So this is just supplement. It's not like I don't use this straight up as fertilizer because they're not meant to be fertilizer for the plants. Next item is the Alaska Blooming Fish Fertilizer. You're gonna see at the bottom here where my pinky is. You're gonna see at the bottom here where my pinky is that this is made with fish. And you're gonna see the P and K figures are quite high, 10 and 10. So that's what it is. It's supposed to be for flower plants. I wouldn't say this is 100% organic or this is not 100% organic fertilizers because I've been told by the seller that this could burn your roots since the figures are quite high. So if you chose to go with this for your flower plants, please be very careful and mindful using it because again, it can burn your roots. Once the roots are burned, I would say it's actually a little bit more dramatic than root rot. Root rot, you somehow can save it, but once your roots are burned, that's it, it's toast. There's no way, there's no coming back from there, unfortunately. I personally haven't ran into that problem before, but I have heard stories about root burn can damage your plants tremendously. So try not to do that. And if you love houseplants, I'm sure that you must have seen this product before, especially in the recent years. This has become such a huge hit at every market. What it is that it contains, I think, 16 to 18 different ingredients like bat poops, rabbit poops, fish fertilizer, kelp, all those sort of good things, 18 different ingredients in here. So this is like amazing. And there's an instructions in the back here of how to mix it. The price for this one is actually kind of expensive, $60 Canadian dollars. However, you can mix it into 50 gallons of mix, and 50 gallons is like 200 liters of fertilizer, which is massive. And each time you only need about 20 mil for a liter. So that is, in the long run, this is actually kind of saving. It doesn't mention, that's the thing, it doesn't mention the NPK figures in here. So back to the first point when I said about like, you know, all the products are not created equally. So this is what I meant by that. So that's one of the reasons why when I use different products, I like to mix them in to make sure that it still meets that nutrients that the plants need. Then one of the most popular one that everyone loved is the SUPERthrive. Now I know there's a lot of debates. There are a lot of debates about using SUPERthrive because for the price point, it's not cheap. A bottle like this you can find at the supermarket for anywhere between $15 to $20, depends on where you purchase it from. Personally, I love using SUPERthrive. I found that they actually do help for the roots of my plants. It's made with kelp. I don't know if you can see, but right here the green line, it said it's made with kelp. So kelp obviously helps tremendously for the root system of your plants, especially if you import plants or once you repotted your plants. So the root system will be disturbed. By using kelp, it's sort of like, what is it like for a human being, us? Sort of like calming down our nerve system so that we can relax and not going nuts, basically, for plant world. So this is what SUPERthrive is for. But then I also love to mix in a little bit of pure kelp fertilizer, just a touch, you know, just a touch. And I think that helps for the plants. All right. Oh yes, one of the main disadvantages of using organic fertilizer is the smell. Oh, I hate it. I would say the smelliest item would be this one. I don't know if you purchased this one or have used it before, but this is probably one of the worst smell I have ever smelled before. Am I mad about it? Probably. Just a tiny bit mad at it. I wish that the smell wasn't there. However, I'm happy in the sense that this is real. This is real deal, you know? It made a fish. It made a fish. So it's supposed to smell like that. It's supposed to smell fishy. And you're gonna notice that this is, oh my god, hydrolyzed fish fertilizer. So hydrolyzed fish fertilizer, if you look it up, it's actually a lot better than the other fish emulsion. So fish emulsion, from my understanding, is that it's not as organic. It's not as pure as the hydrolyzed fish fertilizer, because with hydrolyzed fish fertilizer, they use every single part of the fish and it doesn't go through the extreme process to produce it. Whereas fish emulsion, they go through heating and everything. So throughout that process, it was sort of already killed a lot of the microorganisms that you wanted in your plants. Hence, the smell of fish emulsion is a little bit less attacking than the hydrolyzed fish fertilizer. The one that I love, the smell, this is so weird, I shouldn't even talk about this, but this one, the Alaska fish fertilizer for blooming, actually smelled the best. It smelled almost like tea, green tea or jasmine tea. It's beautiful. Yeah, it smells amazing. I love it. I know a lot of people don't like Marphyl Soil Enhancer because they said the smell can be a bit punching. Yeah, so I personally don't have any problem with smelling Marphyl. It doesn't give me that punching smell like other people have talked about. Now, pay very close attention. It said right here, this is soil enhancer. So this is not considered as fertilizers. I saw a lot of people using just pure this soil enhancer from Marphyl to fertilize their plants. Please don't do that. If you read carefully at the nutrition fact sheet at the back of the bottle, the figures are extremely low, like very, very low, barely to nothing. So I wouldn't recommend using this alone just to fertilize your plants. And same thing with SUPERthrive. This is not supposed to be your go-to fertilizer. This is a supplement. Like human being us, we eat meat and vegetables and stuff like that, but sometimes we also need to take in extra vitamins to maintain and help us grow better. Yeah, human grows too. I'm like, for one second in my head, I'm like, do we grow or actually whatever. And okay, so you see a bunch of different products here. which one would I recommend for basic level to moderate to advanced level? Alright, first of all, the most basic one I would recommend would be this Neptune Fish and Seaweed Fertilizer. You don't necessarily need to go for this brand. There's tons of other brands out there that offer fish fertilizer. It depends on where you're from. This offers everything that your plants need, the microorganism, the NPK figures, all the nutrients that your plants need. So if you're a basic beginner house plants enthusiast, I would say just this alone is perfect for your plant's need. If you feel a little bit fancier, if you want to mixing up a little bit to the moderate level, I would recommend doing the tea worm casting here, and you can also use Liqui-dirt or a little bit Marphyl mixing in with your main organic fish fertilizer. And that should be for the moderate level. For the advanced level, 100% you can mix in a little bit of kelp to help the root system more well established. You can help put in a little bit of magnesium, and so CalMag basically, for the overall well-being of the plant. And you don't necessarily need to use this, to be honest with you. I wish I didn't purchase this one, but I did anyway. This is great for variegated plants. So if you have philodendron pink princess or variegated monstera, any sort of like plants with colors, this is great to bring out that color on the leaves. But if you don't, then you don't necessarily need this one. So you can definitely cut this out of your list. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on what you want and your budget, your growing conditions, the kind of plants that you have. There's no right or wrong in fertilizing your plants. Nothing is Bible, obviously. So work it out, try different products, see what works best for you, do a bit of research. Personally, I use, as I said repeatedly, I use organic fertilizers for the last many years, and they have been working beautifully for me. I have no complaint whatsoever, except for the smell and the messy part I don't like. But overall, they give me wonderful results, and I have no complaints whatsoever so far. Another trick is that if you eat rice, when you wash the rice, that water, do not throw it out, please. Keep it, save it. That is considered as sugar for the microorganism as well. So I'm just going to talk briefly of how I do it. Get a big bucket, 18 liters of water, and then I put in like 500 grams or half of this tube worm casting in. Mix them all up. I let it sit for, then I mix in like a tablespoon of the fish and seaweed fertilizer. Add like sugar, food for the microorganism. If I feel fancy, I can mix in a little bit of kelp fertilizer. Same thing, it acts just like food for the microorganism. I let them sit for 24 to 36 hours with the rice water that I just talked about when you rinse your rice. So you can mix them all in together and let it sit for 24 to 36 hours. Do not go anywhere beyond that time frame, because those good fungus, good bacteria would turn into bad bacteria, and you don't want that. So yeah, use it within 24 to 36 hours and you are good. If you can collect rainwater, oh my god, 100% collect it, please. It's free and it's clean and it's full of oxygen. That's how plants in nature, they grow so huge and so lushy, because they have that oxygen boost into your plants. Hydrogen peroxide, 3%. You can mimic it by doing so. But be careful using this, because obviously it has the antibacterial properties in it. So if you use it too much, you can indirectly killing all the good microorganisms that we've been working so hard on to make them alive in our plants, in our fertilizers as well. So yeah, be careful when using this, that's all. So next, I'm gonna show you the step-by-step of how I actually do it. Alright, I hope you had a wonderful day, and thank you for joining in with me today. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you found this video helpful, give me a like, leave some comments below. If you have any questions or recommendations or any suggestions, I'm more than happy to listen and hear from you. Also, occasionally I'm trying to do live stream video from my Instagram to do question and answers about houseplants in particular. We can chat, interacting. I love doing it. I'm gonna try to do the live stream on YouTube, but I'm just trying to figure out how to operate that function. So if you enjoy talking with me and interacting with me, please consider following me on my Instagram, which I'm gonna put link down below here somewhere. And that's all for now. Hope you had a wonderful time. See you next week. Bye.